Hello, hello. Excited to be on Adobe Live today. If you're tuning in right now for this From Thought to Canvas, Adobe Illustrator's Performance Transformation, you are in the right place. So we will be speaking today with a member of the Illustrator team. And it's actually very exciting. Not only is it Friday, happy Friday, but happy birthday, Adobe Illustrator. We'll be celebrating its 38th birthday. Can you imagine? March of 1988. Here's the box set from that time. It was floppies back then. Can you believe it? How far we've come in such a little time. Thanks for tuning in. I'm Carrie Gotch, and I'm on the Pro Design marketing team. You may see me at some of the events if you came to Adobe Max the last few years, or even at Creative Pro Week. Shout out to David Blattner and team. I may have seen you there. And we're doing something a little bit different on Adobe Live today. We have our product team member on. This is his first time on Adobe Live. Join me in welcoming. Go ahead and introduce yourself.
Yes, thank you, Kerry. This is Avinash. I'm part of the Illustrator product management team, and I'm super excited to be here and talk about things which we usually don't talk about. We always talk about the new features and functionality that we built into Illustrator, but today we're going to talk about something which is not so talked about, but yet super relevant for you, which is performance and stability. So we'll share more about how we're going about it, why did we make it such a big priority. But coming back to Illustrator's 38th birthday, it is amazing. I mean, there are hardly any softwares that I know of which have sort of survived for almost 4 decades. And if you look back, if you look at 1.0, which had almost like probably 5 to 6 tools, now we have amazing set of tools and functionality which we have built over years. All the innovation, the hard work that has gone into this product, and that's because you guys love this product, and we are honored to be part of this, journey.
And we will be looking at the chat. So
Yeah.
please, if you have any questions along the way, drop them in either on Behance or on YouTube. Hey, Molly, thanks for tuning in. Thank you, Carol, for tuning in. Go ahead and put where everyone is tuning in from. I'm tuning in from San Francisco. And Avinash, where are you at in the
Yeah,
world?
I am in Delhi, which is in India. It's about nighttime here, but because it's Friday, so I'm all pumped up, uh, excited.
Yeah, I know. Thanks for sharing your Friday night with us. So let's
All
get
right.
into it. Like maybe we could talk a little bit about the performance. So I know the performance has always been a top priority, like since the inception. Um, but what is happening like right now? What is this inflection point that we're looking at and what we're talking about today?
Absolutely. And I know, because Illustrator, right from 1.0, when John and Chuck thought about Illustrator, right, it was all about PostScript and all about precision and control, right? And I think that's the sort of core of Illustrator, right? We want to give you all the power, precision, and control so that you can create what you're thinking in your mind. And over the years, we have built all these amazing features and functionality. And however, because when Illustrator was, when it came to light in 80s, the context was different. There were no multi-core systems. There was no GPU. Multi-threading was not so, norm that days. And we really want to make sure that now that we have these modern hardware and all the power that we have in the hardware, we want to make sure that nothing comes in between your inception, what you think, and when you create. The illustrator should not come between that, and we're making a big effort in making sure that Illustrator continues to be one of the most performant apps and doesn't come in, between your sort of creation. Um, and we heard you loud and clear. You told us that we really care about performance and stability, apart from all the other features, good features that been building. Uh, and yeah, I mean, performance and stability is something that is expected out of application like Illustrator, which is like you spend so much time in Illustrator. And when I talk to some of our customers, and it's funny when I say, hey, how long you been using Illustrator? And they tell me, you know what, I was sitting in my father's lab when I first saw him drawing busier cows on the screen, and for the last 20, 25 years I've been seeing it evolve. And that's the kind of love and admiration you guys have, and that puts a lot of responsibility on us as a product team, and we're making sure that we deliver what you expect from application like Illustrator. And I'll just walk you through some of the things that we've been hearing through different channels.
Yeah, maybe before we do that, how about
Yep,
we put a poll up? We want to hear from you. Now we have a few people in the
absolutely.
chat. Jeffrey, Cheryl, Jack, thank you for joining us. Carol, Peter, Ton. We're gonna put up a poll right now to find out a little bit more about your pain points. We want to hear from you. What are your pain points? What's frustrating you? Um, let's go ahead and put that poll up so people can answer that. And
Okay.
while we're doing that, Um, yeah, feel free
Yeah.
to pop in your questions at any time or comments. Really, this is meant
Jeffrey,
to be
yeah,
ongoing dialogue, and we're very interested in continually evolving not only like performance in the
yeah,
tool, but also how we gather feedback and implement feedback, right? It's hard to
absolutely.
have a one size fits all product, but with your continued input, it becomes better and more fine-tuned over time.
Yeah. And as I can see in the chat, a lot of people are telling us they've been using it for many years.
Yeah, let's see. Okay, here we go. The poll's live.
Yeah.
Which pain points affect you most? Opening files, working with large, complex files, saving files, exporting assets. So go ahead, let us know which one. And while
Yeah.
you're doing that, we're going to get into some of the ones that we've heard.
Yeah. And also, I'm just going through the chat and I see a lot of people telling us how long you've been using uh, Illustrator. And like Ton has been using it for since 87.
Right? It
And
looks like okay. A lot of folks are saying working with large, complex files is a pain point here. Is that
yes,
what we're hearing from the community at large?
absolutely. And I think that's one of the things that we have as part of our performance roadmap. I'll give you some little more behind the scene view into how we're sort of solving that. But let's go through some of the things that we've heard from you through different channels. The first thing and the biggest gripe that we hear from our community is, I bought this new computer, new powerful modern computer, and it's not, Illustrator is not leveraging all the power that I have. And we heard you, and that is why we are doing big architectural changes to make sure that Illustrator is able to leverage all the cores in your hardware. It's using memory efficiently, and it's using all the modern GPUs. And like I said, when Illustrator was built, there were no concept of multi-core. Most of the machines were single core, and it was predominantly CPU, right? And we are making a lot of effort in terms of making sure that we port all of this into modern hardware. And I think just to give you a sense of complexity, not to make it as an excuse, but Illustrator has like millions of lines of code, and which is almost similar to an operating system. And we have about 90 plus tools. We have about 500 plus dialogues in Illustrator, and then we support about 35, uh, more than 35 kinds of file format. And when we port these features and functionality to modern hardware, we want to make sure they work exactly the way you expect them to work. And even when we are moving things from CPU to GPU, the rendering and everything that you expect that you have gotten used to, it should render exactly the way you're expecting them to. And so we're making sure that we're taking all these steps and we're testing it thoroughly, and we're taking a lot of feedback from a lot of you who are already part of some of our pre-release and beta programs. And it is a big effort, but we're completely committed to it. And so yeah, I think this is one of the things that we hear from all over, that make sure that my
Right.
computer is, you're leveraging all the power that I have in my computer.
Yeah, thanks for that look under the hood too, of like what's under there that you're dealing with.
Yeah.
And it's not often that and you're part of a bigger team too, right? Do you want to give
Yes.
any shout outs to any folks on your team who are also working with you on this initiative?
Yes, absolutely. And I'm assuming a lot of them are already on the chat. And so we have this whole team, dedicated to performance and stability. We have Tarun Beri, Gaurav Jain, Ram, who's looking at stability, and I don't want to leave out any names, but these are some of the things, Akshay and other folks. I hope some of them are already online and sort of looking at all the comments that people are telling us. But yeah, it's a big effort, and just to reiterate, performance and stability is a we are pretty serious about making it more performant and stable app. And in the next few months, you will see almost every release that we do for Illustrator, it will have some performance and stability enhancements. And we're excited. We're working with the community, and we are hosting these Reddit sessions, and also Adobe forums and user voice. We're seeking a lot of input from you guys if you're doing the right. But please feel free to tell us in the chat if there's anything that sort of bothers you most, and where you feel
Yeah,
we are
Jeffrey
lagging
says
the
that his
performance.
point pinpoint is shoulders and lower back. The pain is real. I think for anyone working at their computer such long days. So definitely feel your pain, Jeffrey.
Yes, and let me take that as a future request and see what we can do about it. I'll put that in my roadmap and see if my engineering team has any solutions, because we have some brilliant engineers.
Right.
Who
Definitely feel
knows?
your pain.
All right.
Peter, yes, we could see the Behance chat. Oh, you've been using it since 1986. Wow. Wow. OG over here. Thanks for joining.
Yeah,
You must have seen it in all its evolution. If you have any like fun insights of what you've seen over the years, you can add it, Peter. That's fun. Okay.
yeah.
Well, you have some other ones too that you've heard.
Yes. And also, I saw Igor on the chat, and Igor, I must call out. He's been one of the users who has sort of given us tremendous amount of feedback over the years. And I think within the team we have high regards for him. So Igor, thank you for joining. I don't know whatever time it is in your time zone, and he tells me you've been using it since 1998. Wow, that's
Oh.
fascinating. Yeah. So let's see if you have any more comments.
Oh, Tan says 87. Okay.
Oh, so Igor, Tom beats you by 1 year.
Competition here.
Yes.
Um,
So,
so yeah. Oh,
getting,
there we
yeah,
go.
yes. And like you also, some of you commented already, working with complex files. And yeah, we definitely understand that. I think what is fascinating is that we see our users pushing Illustrator really hard, and that's what is expected of any mission critical application. And we see some of these cartography files, which is huge, like millions of paths and thousands of objects and hundreds of layers. And you've been telling us that the Illustrator starts lagging somewhere, and the predominantly the reason being that we've been predominantly a single core applications, and we know that almost 60 to 70% of our users that use Illustrator, they have at least 8 cores in the system, and so far we've not been able to leverage that. And with this multi-threading, you should be able to see that we're uh, taking all the juice out of your system. And in fact, we some of the changes that we released recently, and I'm going to talk about what is already out there, which we have shipped. We are getting feedback from our users saying, "Hey, it was so nice to see that my all 8 cores sort of maxing out and not getting just stuck with one core." So we are seeing that right feedback, and we continue to work with you in terms of help us where we need to improve more. So yeah, so we are streamlining this whole complex file handling. Uh, so far it's been like we wait for something to finish and then we execute the next task, but with multi-threading it gives us a lot of flexibility and power to run things in parallel. And also the other thing that we heard about was about network files. It takes little, it is a laggy, and we have done a lot of optimization in terms of how we handle network files. So yeah, I think in coming months, look forward to it. Stay tuned. We'll continue to publish and announce all the changes. And like I said, almost every release that comes out will have some of these enhancements.
Thank you, Avinash, for sharing some of that look underneath the hood. And for those of you just tuning in, wanted to remind you that we're on here today with a product manager for Illustrator, and we're talking from thought to canvas, Adobe Illustrator's performance transformation. So you are in the right place if you're looking to talk about Illustrator performance today. We are also taking your questions, insights. We have a lot of OGs in the chat, apparently. Stephen has been using it from January 87. Lots of 87s, a 98. This is really fun. It's good to see everyone. Good to see you, Jess and Igor, as well in the chat. And from a technical perspective, what was preventing Illustrator from performing better, and how are you addressing those limitations? I guess you were talking a little bit about the multi-threading.
Yes, and I think like I said, it's we have built this functionality over almost like 4 decades. Um, and just like I was saying, just to give you an option of even a simple tool like eyedropper has about 30 controls that you can switch on, switch off. And when we poured this functionality into the modern paradigm, like I said, when Illustrator was built, there were no, GPUs. There was a single core, and now that we're moving them to a GPU, for example, if we were a GPU first application, there would be a certain kind of output that is expected, and users are used to that. Now, when most of the work was being done on CPU, and the way I know I'm getting a little more technical, but because it's behind the scenes, so I can take that leeway of talking a little more about the nuances. But when you render something through CPU, there is a certain, there could be always difference between how it shows through GPU and CPU. So when we move these things over to GPU, we want to make sure that it is rendering exactly the way you were expecting it to render. As against if we were always on GPU, you would have seen an output and you would have been okay with it. So we're doing really, really intense and thorough testing and making sure everything that we move, it doesn't change anything and it stays the way you've been expecting it. The other thing, I talked about all the dialogues and all the file formats and all the tools that we have built. Like I said, 90 plus tools, right? And every tool has such a fine-grained controls and options that we have to make sure that they translate well when we sort of move them to modern hardware. So I think these were some of the things that we want to be very, very careful. We don't want to break anything. And again, stability is a big thing. So any change that we make, we want to make sure that it continues to, it doesn't disrupt anything else. and everything's we're not compromising the stability of Illustrator. And like I said, I think this year you will see a lot of these changes coming through in next few months. Some of our top engineers are working on it, and I think I'm so excited that this is so relevant whenever we speak to some of you. You've been using Illustrator for such a long time. You've been pushing Illustrator to its limits, and I'm happy to share that uh, we are putting a lot of effort in performance and stability, and you'll see that coming through in some of the next releases.
Thanks for that, Avinash. I'm excited too, but really interested in how can users get involved with providing feedback, testing these improvements, just being a part of the process in general. So, like, say we have a lot of engaged, I know we have some of our pre-release community in our
Yes.
chat already, but
Yeah.
for those of you who don't know how to engage and how to be like part of the process, what are your top tips?
Absolutely. Great question. I think the different forums that we closely monitor. Of course, we have these Beta Prime, which is basically if you go to Creative Cloud Desktop, there's a beta section. You can download the beta apps. That is where we push our new functionality, new features before we roll it out to the production. And the good thing about beta builds is that they can coexist on the same system, so you don't you can work in beta and the released application. And then we have these pre-release channels. I know Jess and Igor, all of these guys have been helping us out, so they're super involved in that. But then for any feature requests and bugs, UserVoice is one of our main platforms, and you can either go to Illustrator UserVoice, or you can just go to the help menu, and you will see log feature or bug, and will take you through to the UserVoice. And we have a sort of framework within our team wherein we monitor the votes for every feature, every bug. We have a threshold for every bug. For example, when a bug crosses a particular threshold of votes, that becomes part of our next fix cycle. And similarly for features, when any feature crosses a threshold of certain votes, that becomes part of our roadmap. Sometimes we have to evaluate whether it's technically feasible, whether it makes sense, but our intent is to deliver all the features that you guys been asking for. So if you have any feature requests, please go to UserVoice, search for it if it's already there, upvote it. If it's not, please create a new feature request. So I think these are some of the things. And then, of course, recently we've
Right.
been starting also monitoring Reddit, and we're getting a lot of great feedback from users on
Or
that.
put your feature requests in the chat here. Like,
Yes,
we are
of
live.
course.
We have so many folks on the product team in the chat as well. So if you have feature requests or questions, feel free to drop them in because we have a small army behind the scenes who are here to support. And I'm very curious. So you said upvoting on the user voice forum. What's the most upvotes that you've seen in on a post for user voice, a feature request? Is there one that stood out to you?
Yes, I think, and it's been make Illustrator multi-threaded. It's funny, even coming from a creative community which didn't tell me make it faster, they actually told us that make it multi-threaded. So, so I think that's the reason why we picked this up, and we knew it's going to be a big, big lift. Like I said, uh, imagine this code is like decades old, and it has like millions of code, millions of lines of code, almost equal to operating system. But I think we're committed because that's what our users been asking us for, and that is why we see we putting in so much effort into making sure that it is the most performant and stable app uh, out there, and that is what our users are expecting from us.
So Igor is asking in the chat, speaking of GPU, still not as precise, thin lines zoomed in, gaps between fill and actual edge discrepancy here. I think he's talking a little bit about what you have to show. You have that little video demo,
Yeah.
right? That might be interesting to show. rather than tell what you're working on here, especially when it comes to um, items with additional complexities, several lines, several paths.
Yep. Absolutely. And I think, again, like I said, we've been working very closely with users like Igor. So he is up to date on what we are doing. I think he's bringing out that we are not done yet. Of course, we acknowledge that. There are a lot of things that we need to sort of streamline. And like I said, porting things from CPU to GPU has its own nuances. And I think Igor is rightly pointing out we haven't finished yet. But like I said, we just started the journey. We will continue to work on it as long as we're not done and the community is not giving us like thumbs up on that. So yeah.
Yeah. Can we cue up that video that you have on showing what the
Yes, I
differences are
can
today?
get to that. And yeah, it's a, let me just quickly, I'll get to this section later. So yeah, I mean, these are some of the changes that we shipped recently. And this sort of video shows you the comparison from what you'll see on the left side is the previous, how it used to work. And on the right side, you will see how it works now. So the first one we're showing the whole zoom. Look at this. This is like millions of paths, and we invested a lot in rendering performance. We'll continue to do that. On the left, you're seeing there's a laggy frame updates, and on the right, you're seeing the frames are updating much faster. It's a pretty complex art with millions of paths and thousands of objects. And so see how smooth it
Wow.
is. Yeah.
Yeah, that is
And if you see on the
so
left,
different.
the blurry, we're not updating that. And then yeah, maybe we'll get to this one a little
Very
later. But
smooth.
yeah, let me get to the. There was this one other talking about all the things that we've been hearing from community. We talked about this. We talked about complex files. And of course, we also heard that it freezes and when we apply complex effect. And like I said, it's amazing to see how people push limits of Illustrator, and that's exactly what we want people to do. And as I will share in one of the next slides, we have already optimized some of the effects and all the top effects, and we continue to work on that. But yeah, we heard you that when you apply different kinds of objects and effects on objects, the Illustrator starts to sort of lag behind. So we have again, because we're going into multi-core architecture, everything will run in parallel, and you will see a big exponential gain in the performance. And we're also working not only making it multi-core, we're taking an opportunity to optimizing the algorithms that sort of power these effects to make sure that they are efficient and fast.
I'm just going back to the poll now that we have 37 votes on that. It looks like for which pain points affect you most, 30% said opening files,
Oh,
38% said working with the large complex files, 16% saving files, and 16%, oh no, now 18% exporting assets. Yeah, so that's what we have from the group at the moment.
yeah. No, right. I think I, good thing is that this is sort of this aligns with the prioritization that we've done. I think um, even
And
though
we
some of the
have
chip,
a quick
yeah,
question. Is this Mac only or Windows 2? Asked
both
Rick.
platforms. It is going to be both platforms, and that, like all the complexity that I talk about, I think we want to make sure that it works both on Mac and Windows, and there are always nuances of an operating system. So team is committed to delivering these enhancements on both the platforms for sure. Yeah, and like I was saying, working with large complex file, which is like a clear winner right now with 40% of votes, and that sort of is kind of where we're putting on. And in coming months, you will see a lot of changes happening there. Uh, it is. it is a large effort because I think there's nuances to different file types and all of that. But we understand, we have heard it from different forums as well that you're bringing in these complex file, and that's also, we are in a way, happy to see that people are creating these really, really complex illustrations, which are not possible in probably any other software. So we will want to we want you to continue push Illustrator's limits and create these complex arts. And we are committed to making sure that there is no lag, and Illustrator is not coming in between what you want to create. So stay tuned through this year. You will see a lot of updates around making sure that working with these complex and large files with millions of paths and thousands of objects and hundreds of layers becomes buttery smooth.
Yeah, I'm curious because there's so much complexity to listening to all the feedback coming in, prioritizing your roadmap. How do
Yeah,
you deal with all like the different inputs coming in and then decide what to prioritize and how to tackle what's most important next?
absolutely. And like you rightly said, I think we can't complain about getting too much feedback. And just to give you a sense of, we get like hundreds of feature requests every month from different channels, right? And we're happy. People love this, love Illustrator. They want to make it better, and they're helping us make it better, which is amazing. And the way, of course, we look at when I said, of course, the words that you get from user voice, but we reach out to a lot of customers. We talk to them. We look at how world is changing in terms of how graphic design is moving, what kind of techniques, workflows are evolving, and is Illustrator sort of matching up to the expectation that people have from a pro app like Illustrator. So I think all of this goes into our prioritization, and performance and stability is one of outcomes of this process. We looked at, everybody was telling us, apart from all the features that you're doing, please invest in performance and stability, because we are bringing in a lot more complex files. The world has changed and the workflows have changed. And I think, like I said, we're committed to making sure that we deliver on the promise and expectation that you guys have.
Okay, and with that, like we're inviting feedback today. So, what do you want us to make faster? We have effects, brushes, Pathfinder operations, and working with images. And that poll is now live in the chat. So feel free to put in your requests there. Okay. And while we're waiting for those to come and, curious to learn more about,
Yeah, I
oh,
can I can actually
yes, you
walk
can
through
share
the
this.
process that we took, in terms of how did we pick what areas we need to go after, and how did we actually think about performance optimization. Um, so yeah, I think we started by looking at, and like I said, we were already hearing from a lot of you in terms of we want more performance and stability. And we started looking at what is a typical workflow in Illustrator. And of course, you may not go through all these stages, but this is sort of kind of representation of what people do in Illustrator, right from launching the app and setting up the document to ideation, where they bring in a lot of images, whether to sample colors or for or tracing and all of that. And then there's a core of work that happens on the editing, which is about shape creation, typography, coloring. These are the three core areas of Illustrator. And then composition of layout, and finally, exporting it out or printing it out. And so we mapped this workflow, and then we said, let's map all the features and functionality on these different stages of workflow. Of course, this is not an all exhaustive list, it's just an indicative list. So we started mapping it out on these each stages. And we started looking at a lot of data, and spoke to a lot of people. We went, we talked to a lot of you through different communities, and we started identifying what are the areas where you're feeling the most sort of bottlenecks. And we started seeing some of these, hotspots or areas that we wanted to sort of attack first. And for example, in ideation and reference, now um, some of the things that I'll talk about, which you've already shipped, is about imaging, right? And the thing is that we because Illustrator is predominantly a vector app, and we had never sort of put a lot of effort in optimizing how we handle images. And what we saw that almost 30 to 40% of our users are bringing in images either for inspiration or for, like I said, tracing or using embedding them, linking them. That was an insight for us. And we said we haven't like optimized it to handle these images, so let's do that. And in fact, I would encourage everyone to try our latest, versions if you're not already updated, and tell us if you find it much faster, because we have made some of these improvements in terms of how you place images. Yeah, I mean that's the approach we took. And are we getting any votes on the poll that we had, or?
Yes, we have some votes. Let's see. So a lot of folks want us to make faster effects. 43% is effects,
Yeah,
then working with images, which I think you'll have something to say
yeah,
about, and then brushes, and then nobody for the Pathfinder operations. Okay, very interesting.
yeah.
Um, so on working with images, is there something that we're shipping?
Yes. So, yeah, I think, like I said, we had not done as much around image optimization with Illustrator, because we were mostly focused on making vector operation faster. But we realized from data and from talking to a lot of you in the community that you are bringing in a lot of images, not necessarily for image editing, but you're embedding them, you're linking them, you're sampling colors for them, you're tracing them. So we have done these improvements, and they're already shipping. So try it out. So all of this has become now multi-threaded, which means when you bring in any images like JPEG, PNG, TIFF files, you should see them. It's lot faster experience, a lot much smoother experience. And even opening documents which has lots of images, or saving documents which has lots of images. In fact, I have a demo of some of those with that we can play a little later. It has
Let's do
become,
that. Yeah, that's a
yeah.
really
Let's
interesting
let's
demo, actually.
let me yeah. Let me actually jump to that section which is about images. Okay. So, okay. So, we already saw that. Now, this is opening 1 GB file which has loads of images, and what you're seeing on the left is the experience on the which it would be, it's still loading on the right side, flat in 7 seconds with hundreds of images, the file open. And if you see how it was earlier, it is now super optimized, super fast. And then yeah, maybe I have another one around. Okay, I think I should have another around images. Yep. Okay, so this is about saving a file, about 1 gig of file, which has loads of images. And what you're seeing on the left is the earlier experience, and what you're seeing on the right is the new experience. You see, the left one has barely started, and the right one is already finished. So yeah, so these are some of the things that we have already shipped. So imaging workflows, let us know if you have tried it and you feel it is faster or it's still not meeting your expectation. Please let us know in the chat. More than happy to sort of um, look at the feedback, and if there's anything that we want to do more, we're more than happy to do that.
And if you're just tuning in, we're here today with Avinash, who's on our Illustrator product team, and we're talking about all things performance related to Illustrator. And this is kind of a new thing for us because usually you'll hear about the shiny new innovations, but not often does all the attention um, that we're paying to performance really come out to the public. So it's good to like get a sneak peek behind the scenes. And then also we're supercharging it this year, really dedicated and opening up a lot of forums to have open discussions and dialogue with
Yeah.
folks so they can help prioritize what they like to see and really make the tool the most robust it can be for them. Um, and with that, is that there any way that you would like to see the community um, get involved, or if you have top things that you enjoy seeing from the community?
Absolutely. And before I answer that, I want to share something that I'm really excited about, which is going to come soon, and it's on canvas editing. And so we are sort of redefining the whole thing. The whole architecture is being rewritten in terms of how you interact with objects on the canvas, which is about if you have a complex objects and when you scale them, when you twist them, drag them, transform them. So we are taking a fundamentally different approach, a modern approach, how that should happen. And in very soon, you will see that happening in a real time, instantaneously. And we have set internally, we have set a very high bar for ourselves. We are looking at making most of our operations at 60 FPS, which is basically how human mind perceives this to be buttery smooth real time. So that's those are the goals, and we monitor these numbers very, very closely. Our goal is to make sure any operation that you do on the campus should be real time. There should be absolutely no lag. So yeah, I'm super excited about that. It is a big lift, and we are, like I said, we want to make sure we don't break anything, everything stays stable, and like I had mentioned already, we are shipping some of these previews in our Prime beta. So if you go to Creative Cloud Desktop app, go to beta section. You can download Illustrator. Of course, you can also download other Adobe applications with our beta. But our we usually push these changes out in beta prime for some of you who want to try it out, and more importantly, give us feedback around whether it's working, not working for you, so that we can incorporate that feedback before we actually make them live. And when you launch your beta apps, coming back to your questions, Kerry, if nothing else, you can go to beta app, and there's a section, there's a menu item where you can say provide feedback. It will take you to the forum or the user voice, so that whatever that link we have with that particular feature, you can go there, tell us about your experience with that feature. So that's the easiest way you can tell us about it. And then Adobe forums, user voice, like we mentioned, are the channels which team monitors very, very closely. And yeah, I mean, we are looking for this is journey for us. This is probably so I've been in Adobe for 20 years and in Illustrator for more than 7 years now. And this is probably when we have invested so much in performance and stability, and it's a journey. And we really want to collaborate with you in terms of telling us it's working or not working, or uh, is it
Yeah.
meeting your expectations?
And after 20 years, this is your first Adobe Live. So this
I
is
know.
kind of a fun one for
Absolutely.
Illustrator's 38th birthday, too. What
Yep.
a fun. And we had scheduled this before we had ever even thought about it being the 38th birthday. So it's really exciting time, inflection point for
Yes.
Illustrator, for the team. I know. And we are getting like a couple questions around AI in the chat. So it's more like it looks like really the question is around AI and productivity, and how we're automating for creative control for the professional. I think this is like a good example of this might be recolor. Do you want to talk a little bit
Yes.
about like recolor in AI? I think that really addresses that point.
Absolutely. And before I get to the gen recolor, I'll give you a little bit context about how the evolution of recolor. So recolor is one of the most used feature sets in Illustrator. And it was like built many, many years ago where you have a sort of a color palette and you want to experiment with it. Uh, Before we did Gen Color, we actually made a sort of a basic version of Recolored. So what we saw was that people love it, but it's little difficult to get because there's so many options and controls out there. So we made a basic version of. So if you go to Recolored, there's a basic version, and then you can click and you go to advanced version. So that was like step one for that, and then we said, you know what? People want to experiment more with these colors, right? So there was always an option of saying, hey, restrict this to three colors, four colors, five. You had all those options. You could even specify your swatch and say, play with the colors within my swatch. So we wanted to sort of extend that. And I think Gen Recolor was such a logical extension to that. And that shows in our data as well, where you have loved this feature and there's a lot of people using it, wherein we say, hey, go ahead and generate these colors and then pick whatever variation you have. And then, of course, we give you all those variations. We can pick that, you can experiment with that, and you have all the creative controls. You can specify what you want. So you have all the controls, but we're giving you a lot more option to experiment and play with it.
And looking back at that poll of what you want us to make faster, it looks like effects is leading now at the top with working with images,
Uh,
second, and then brushes, and still zero for Pathfinder operations. So,
All right. And like the slide that we have up right now, if you look at effects again, it's happy that it's sort of resonating with the community as well. Effects is again something that we are already sort of working on, and we already delivered five top effects that you see: drop shadow, blur, inner and outer glow, and then rasterization. We know a lot of you rasterize also the final output. So we have already made them multi-threaded. So if you haven't given it a try, please update to the latest version and see the difference you will be. I mean, I also try with a lot of files that I got from my customers, and I was really excited because I hold my engineering team accountable. Uh, I don't let them, celebrate success so easily. So I want to make sure that whatever changes we are doing, it's sort of working on the our users' files as well. So these effects are super fast now. We have five more effects coming in a month or so. The next five effects that will be multi-threaded and they will be supercharged, and you'll be able to apply them instantaneously and also sort of scale them, work with objects that have these effects applied. So, yeah.
great. Do you want
Yeah,
to show
and
us anything else
yeah,
that's coming in?
I was
You see?
also going to talk about the layer panel operations. So I think this is again one of the things that we already shipped, and I know that a lot of you use you organize your objects through layers, and I've seen files which have hundreds and 200 layers, and there are a bunch of things that we have done, right? We have made the layering operation which is a little laggy when you exceed a certain threshold. For example, hiding, unhiding, and I'll get to the demo in a while for that one. I have that demo, and even expanding, collapsing, and even a simple thing like the thumbnail that people would want to see because they have these hundreds of objects and they want to just visually look at where is this object, and there was a lag in updating that thumbnail, and I think I'll get to the demo and so that you can see how fast this has become now in terms of working with layers. Let me. So I think this is a great question, and I think not only Illustrator team, not only Adobe, the whole community is sort of looking at it. But I think at the core of it, we definitely want to give all the controls to the the creative, right? They will always have the control, and the way we're thinking about it is how can AI help them sort of do these mundane things that they didn't sort of which they wanted to sort of offload. And also, if they're ideating, they want to create variations. How can we make sure that they become, you know, they can do those faster and at the same time, have all the control. And that's why you see some of these things like, you can you can say what's my style preference and all of those things. So I think the when we think about bringing AI into Illustrator, we definitely want to keep all the control and all the power to our the creative people and use AI as a tool rather than a replacement. I think we can never replace
Right.
the creative people.
And it seems like
Absolutely.
some of the prioritization has to do a lot with our community feedback. Our community is
Absolutely.
really driving a lot around our innovations and how those innovations, once they come out, how they're updated, created, and really meant to serve you as the designer. So yeah, thanks
Absolutely.
for talking about that. And we only have about a few minutes left. So in that, I want to remind people if you have any questions, comments, feedback, feel free to drop it in either on Behance or YouTube, and then we'll go over some of the other videos to kind of take us out.
Yes. Yeah, so coming back to what I was telling about layers, right? Like some of you have these hundreds of layers, and this demo just shows how we have sort of made this process so fast. And what you'll see on the left is again the earlier version where you see the thumbnails are not coming real time, and what you see on the right side is thumbnails are being generated instantly, and on the left you see the thumbnail is still coming up, and that's because of course there are hundreds of layers there. So yeah, this is another example of how we are sort of um, picking all these operation features functionality that you really care about, and you know you that impacts your day-to-day workflows, and we're making them faster. And like I said, in coming months, every almost every release will have some performance enhancements that you can experience.
Great. And for those of you tuning in, we're here with Avinash, who's on the Illustrator product team, answering your questions on performance and diving deep as this week is Illustrator's 38th birthday. It's crazy to think that John Warnock launched it back with all those floppies. And I think he was doing the demos on the original VHS. He was really inspired by his wife, who was a graphic
Yes.
designer, to create Illustrator. I think we put some links earlier in the chat with all that history. Highly recommended. We did some videos around the 30th because, of course, as you get in your 30s and 40s, it's about celebrating those milestone birthdays. So we celebrated the last milestone birthday with some videos that are well worth seeing. I just watched them recently, and it surprised me. It's crazy to think how far that we've come too. And now thinking that this is just the standard, like this is the expectation and the standard for the industry, which is wild. How did you get into this, Avinash? I'm curious. How did you get into Illustrator and what you're doing today?
Yeah, I mean, again, before I joined Adobe, I had my own sort of, I was doing my own thing. I had my own startup, and it was the time when the web was coming up, and we had this um, Flash and all these things coming up. Macromedia was there, and I was so fascinated by web and all the stuff that we do, and
Yeah,
I still remember using probably the first Illustrator version that I used was 7 or 8. I still actually have the book with
I
me,
love
which I
that.
picked up. If you remember, you used to have these. I don't know whether you have that in the other part of the world, but we used to have these Illustrator for Dummies or C++ for Dummies. So I picked up that book
Yeah,
and I still have that with me. And then,
I
of
love
course, I
that.
joined. Yeah,
Well,
and I
thank you
joined
everyone
Adobe.
for joining. I know, like, it's so great and Avinash is going to be on all the AMAs in
Yeah.
the future too. So if you didn't get a chance to ask your questions, we are continuing this dialogue in the upcoming weeks. And just keep an eye out for notifications from either of us. We will be sharing when the next ones are, and we're always looking forward to your feedback and continued dialogue. And get on that user voice, become part of our pre-release community with Igor and Jess and a lot of folks in the chat.
Yes.
And we've really enjoyed being on with you today. Thank you so much for sharing your
Yes.
Friday with us.
Absolutely. And Jess is asking us to share the history link again, so we'll do that. Um,
Yes, we'll add those all in. Thank you so much for being on
Absolutely.
today. And it's
Yeah.
been just great, like seeing everyone's feedback. I don't know what a banana tool is, but I think that'd be like very interesting. And there's also some Easter egg comments, all very good chat. Thank you so much.
Yes.